Today we're looking at ways to spice up beginner games. If you are using specifically the beginner box set, then it can feel a little constricting once you've done a certain amount. You know, once you get through a certain amount, you've kind of played the thing out. So some ways to get a little bit of variation in there. One thing I want to point out is something that I forgot to put in my disclaimer video, which is that if it sounds to you like I'm giving you something that sounds like a rule, if it sounds game mechanic-y, there's probably a rule there for it somewhere, right? Somewhere in one of the books there'll be a rule for it. So, for instance, in the beginner box set, one of the things you can do is introduce basic versions of stuff like artillery and minefields. Now, you would use a very simplified version. You would keep it to lowish damage values. Keep fairly low damage values because you don't want to overflow, completely obliterate anybody in the first couple of turns. And you can do that. I'm pretty sure in the beginner box set, if a leg is destroyed, the mech is effectively out of the game. They can't move or turn or do anything, which means minefields are a little bit OP. So honestly, I wouldn't use more than about 5 points on a minefield. But artillery you can put in there, and again, I'd keep it fairly smallish, make it 10 or 15 point artillery, and you make a simple version. You just say, okay, so it's coming from this side. Try and give it a flight time, even if it's only just one turn. You need to get new players used to the fact that artillery has a flight time. You could put it on board, that wouldn't be a big deal, but like I say, if you get people used to the fact that artillery has a flight time, then it's kind of cool. And yeah, keep it to like 10, 15 points, so a thumper or a sniper piece, I think, is what you want. You can do any scenario you want in the beginner box set. There's no need to say, oh, well, we can't really do this like X scenario because it's geared more towards this sort of mech, like armored combat or clan warfare or something like that. You can find a way to do any scenario you want in beginner box set. I'm going to do an arena build. I know some of you don't like the fact that it's coming up with like slugfest stuff, but I think the arena is a really good thing, and I'll go into why later on, but you could do an arena in a beginner box game. Easy. You just have to muck around with stuff. The easiest way to get more out of a beginner box set would be to increase your mech variety. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, get more record sheets. The game stores will probably hate me for this, but you don't need the mech that is represented by the record sheet. You only need the rules for it and the record sheet itself. Okay? For beginner box set, you only need the top half, but I would just print out the full record sheet and then just only use the top half. If you are getting a variety of mechs in your beginner games, I strongly urge you to stick with 30-25 inner sphere mechs. And the reason for that I will go into in game balance, but basically if you put something like an XL engine, right, into a beginner game, there's no critical spaces, there's no heat, there's no engine loss in a beginner game. In a beginner game, if your center torso is knocked out, you're knocked out. Now, the upside of an XL engine is that you get half the tonnage. You get half your tonnage back, but you can do the same speed. The downside is that it takes up a lot of space, and if your left or right torso are taken out in an inner sphere one, you are destroyed, you're gone, right? That doesn't happen in a beginner game. It has no downside. There is no space, there is no torso taking out, killing you. There is only the benefit. And if you introduce that into a beginner game, then there won't ever be any need for anyone to take anything except an XL engine. And that's just ruining the game, right? You're not sitting there going, I need the extra space, but this will kill me if it hits me. Do I want this space that badly? Blah, 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 etc. You're not having that, like, strategic sort of anxiety thought about which one do I put in, and that you need that for stuff. If you say, do you want an XL engine or not, and they ask you, oh, what's good about an XL engine? So, well, you can do the same speed for half the weight. Okay, what's bad about it? Well, nothing. Why would they ever say no? Right? So, yeah, I would stick to 3025 and Innosphere. Now, this is another thing I forgot to put in my disclaimer video, but in these videos, in these audio logs, whatever you want to call them, you're going to hear me contradict myself a lot. Like a lot. I will tell you, don't do it. I will give you multiple reasons why it's a bad idea, and then I'll tell you to try it anyway. Or I'll tell you why something is awesome, and then I'll say, well, but you probably shouldn't do it. Right? So I'm a chronic fence sitter. You're just going to have to get used to it, okay? You can use other stuff, but I would urge you to stick to, especially at the beginning, 3025 and Innosphere. Just print the record sheet and use a proxy mech for that record sheet. If you find a record sheet you like, if you find a mech you like, buy the mech, buy that model. Find it online somewhere, find it in a shop somewhere and buy it. Okay, you're supporting the game that way, but you're getting a mech that you actually want, right? You're not buying a model and then going, I don't know how this plays, right? You play it with a proxy model for a while with the record sheet, and then you go, yes, I want that one. I definitely want that one, right? You don't need to have the map sheets to play. If you get isometric graph paper, I've done it before. Isometric graph paper ruled up in a specific way will be a hex map. And you just need something to put on there, right? If you make the hexes big enough, you can put an actual, like, BattleTech model on there, but you'd need like a half a dozen sheets to get it big enough, right? So that's, But like I say, I've played games similar to this on a sheet of graph paper, isometric graph paper, ruled up with hexes on it, and then using push pins with little arrows on the top and just representing things that way. And it worked perfectly fine. Like I say, buy the stuff to support the games, to support the people that make the games, and to keep it playing. But if cash is strapped, then you don't actually have to have it. You don't need it. All you need is the rules and the record sheets. That's it. That is the base level that you need, okay? The mech variety, I would also stay away from anything with, if you stay in 3025 Innosphere, you should be fine. But if you're going with stuff that is a little bit out of that, I would stay away from stuff you don't have the rules for. That's basically it. The beginner box set covers basically 3025 Innosphere stuff, right? So it's kind of selling itself. If you go with anything else and you see like a lot of equipment on a mech that you don't have rules for, then I'd avoid that mech. See if you can find a 3025 variant of it or something like that. Minefields, artillery, different sheets if you can get them, different mechs, minis if you can get them. It's not a big deal, but you can do an arena battle, you can do any scenario you want to do. The beginner box set doesn't have to be the end. In fact, you don't have to buy anything else except the beginner box set. If you've got that and a printer and access to the internet, you can play any mech you want, anytime you want, and you can have some beer and pretzels fun and just throw some dice and shoot some stuff. It's cool, right? And then if you have players that want to go a little bit deeper, that want to get a little bit further in it, you can introduce them to Game of Armored Combat or Total Warfare or something like that, right? You can move up. If you are starting with Game of Armored Combat and you can't get a hold of the beginner box set, then you're already on fire. You've got basically everything you need. Again, if you're doing it, I would stick with Innosphere stuff because that is the rule section that's covered there, basically. They don't really go into clans there, obviously. And I'd try and stick with things that have weapons and equipment that are in this book. The majority of them will be 3025 Innosphere units, right? And I would stick with that because it's in the book, you've got the rules for it, and it's just simpler, okay? But those are some ideas for spicing up beginner box set. I'm going to go into some stuff in balance and in my arena game things, assuming I can get myself to do these even remotely coherently, which they're not. But again, if you have a comment about something, if there's something in beginner box stuff that you want to go into more in depth, or that's giving you trouble and you want some help with, put a comment down. And if somebody in the comment field can't help you, I'll do my best. Okay? So anyway, that's about 10 minutes. Let's wrap that up there. And yeah, stay groovy, guys. I'll catch you later.